Hi everyone. I thought I presented last year as well, and last year I did a marketing presentation, and just thought I'd give you a quick update on that. We did sort of an infomercial, and those of you who were here last year remember $39.95, right? Well, it actually, we went forward with that. It was sort of like a 12-minute infomercial. We sent DVDs out to our customers. We've had mixed success with it. I can tell the people that actually watched it, they'll actually say to me, when I run into them, oh yeah, your plan's $39.95, and other people say, aren't you the guy that sent me a DVD in the mail? So I can sort of tell who really paid attention, who watched it. But anyway, it was a fun thing. We shared it with you last year. Just thought I'd give you an update. We actually went forward with that. Mixed success. It's hard as a small rural wireless carrier to compete with the big guys. No matter what you do in a marketing effort, you find that just the endless marketing of the big guys is really tough to compete with. But anyway, we also last year we attempted to get some broadband money, which we were not successful with, but we were looking forward into doing a number of things. One of those things was a fixed wireless internet solution for our rural area. We really are in an area that is lacking for broadband speeds in the rural areas, and we thought we were a prime candidate for the stimulus money, and the Globecomm people were actually quite helpful in putting the package together. Like I said, unfortunately we did not get anything there. But we decided to move forward anyway with a solution providing fixed wireless to homes and businesses in areas that we just simply could not, they just don't have any other options. So that's the project. Matt Hoppus is our director of IT, and I gave Matt the project. I said, Matt, let's see what we can do and what kind of budget do we need. And for a long time, every time I walked in the office, Matt was standing outside my door with another update of, this is going to work, this isn't going to work, this is what it's going to cost. And it was a great project, and Matt did a great job putting it together. He's going to do the majority of our presentation today. He's really the guy that put it together and has the technical knowledge of the products and the decisions that we made. But just a brief about Indigo, for those of you who don't know us, we're actually an 850 A-band wireless carrier. We've been in business since 1992. We were originally Cellular One, and we gave up that name and became Indigo Wireless. We launched GSM services in 2004, and we're still there. We're an AT&T and T-Mobile partner, and we have our own subscriber base as well. So when we looked at broadband, why do we want to go into the broadband business? Well, it seemed like a natural fit for us. One of the situations with our network is we had limited backhaul between our towers, and looking forward to 3G and 4G, well, we needed to upgrade our backhaul. So as we started looking at upgrading that backhaul, we had the ability to offer more services. They can bring us additional revenue. We already have the tower space. We already have a lot of the infrastructure. It'll be a complement to our edge 3G, 4G services in the future. And we can actually get speeds better than DSL and cable modems in most cases. We also have that hometown touch that we think helps us in marketing. And actually, we just launched a little while ago, and we've been very successful. So we got into the equipment process, and this is where I'm going to let Matt take over and start talking about the process that he went through to decide on vendors and technology and so on. Matt?
All right, so as Dave said, my name is Matt Hoppus, Director of IT at Indigo Wireless. And yeah, so we considered four things when we were looking at what equipment we were going to use for our broadband network. Frequency, the cost of the equipment being extremely rural, we needed something that would have a good ROI. The technology, and then the brand name, you know, who were they and that kind of thing. So there were a couple of options that we looked at in the licensed and unlicensed spectrum. 700 megahertz, 2.3, 2.5, 365, kind of the licensed light, if any of you are familiar with that. And then unlicensed 900, 2.4, and 5.8 gigahertz. The pros in the licensed are obviously you've got dedicated spectrum, so what you have is yours. Nobody else is going to step on you. But the equipment is often more expensive, and of course you've got the spectrum licensing costs. And again, a lot of us are rural here, we're very rural, so that was a consideration. With the unlicensed, a lot of the broadband gear is a lot more inexpensive, so you can purchase more of it, you know, with the same dollar amount, but you've got unlicensed spectrum, so you're going to be competing maybe with other carriers in, you know, the same area. Now for us, we're extremely rural, so we're basically the only WISP in that area, but there is a little bit of other, you know, traffic. In the 2.4 gigahertz range, you've got your home wireless routers, that kind of thing, but still our frequencies are pretty clean where we are, so that was good. 700 megahertz, I did do a little research into that, like for WiMAX and that kind of stuff, and just decided that wasn't something I wanted to pursue with the background that I had in broadband. I was going to let that to Paul and Dave to do, on the cellular side of stuff. 2.3 and 2.5 I looked into. Those, as was discussed earlier, are often available from charter schools, from faith-based organizations. In our area, unfortunately, Clearwire owns them, so that wasn't really an option either, even though Clearwire will probably never use them up there. And then 3.65 gigahertz is a really neat frequency, especially for somebody in our situation. You license it from the FCC, but somebody else can also license it. And so you both are licensed, and you're supposed to work together to coordinate it. But you have to have a license to operate, which could work really well, except for the fact that you have to license every subscriber unit. So that just would have became a licensing and paperwork nightmare, because for every subscriber, the FCC sends you a little piece of paper that you have to file somewhere. So we decided not to go that route for the time being. And the vendors are petitioning the FCC saying this doesn't work. You need to come up with a better option. In the unlicensed, 900 megahertz works really well in foliated areas with trees, but as the frequency goes down, your antenna size goes up. So a really high gain 900 megahertz antenna on somebody's house is going to be fairly large. 2.4 gigahertz, I had some initial concerns with noise when we started playing around with that, because I came from some larger, in our rural area, larger towns, where 2.4 gigahertz, you had a higher noise floor. But it's very rural where we are, so again, 2.4 actually is working very well, and that's what we've been using. We also looked at 5.8 because usually that spectrum is very clean, but that's what we use primarily for a lot of our tower backhauls, so that really wasn't an option. So what we chose to do, 900 megahertz, even though it has weaker antennas, and for anybody who's not familiar with a point-to-multipoint broadband network, unlike like a WiMAX or an LTE network where you just put the subscriber unit on somebody's desk, we actually mount little antennas on people's houses pointed towards the towers. So the 900 megahertz, we've got that running in 2 towns. There probably are 2 towns where we have our most trees. And so it's actually saved us about 10 to 15 or so customers in some of those areas that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to hook up. But as a general rule, we're not installing 900 megahertz to service subscribers. 2.4 gigahertz, much higher gain antennas, higher output power, and like I said, we have a lower noise floor, so it's not really an issue as far as noise there. So technology, there's really 2 different kinds of wireless technology out there. One's CSMA, which is collision sense multiple access. Companies like Alvarion, Proxim, WaveRider, and many others use that for their broadband solution. But it's got a couple of issues in my opinion. Some people will disagree with me, but these are my opinions. Basically the way CSMA works is it listens to the air before it transmits to see if it's clean. So basically if it hears any other noise, whether it's from your subscriber or another one of your access points or just somebody's home access point, it's not going to transmit. So that begins to break down, especially as you start to get like 30 or 40 subscribers on your access point. And as you start to get more access points around your area, they all start kind of hearing noise and your throughput doesn't work so well. And it's also kind of like the Wild West. The way a CSMA network works is each subscriber unit, when it's got something to say, it just kind of tries to talk to the access point. And then the access point will say, hey, back off a second. Or if it hears noise, it'll back off for random periods of time. So it's kind of like a kindergarten classroom where all the kids are just kind of trying to talk at the same time, and the teacher's having to go around and tell each of them to stop for a minute. So it kind of breaks down a little bit. So we decided to go with TDMA, which a lot of you cellular guys are probably very familiar with, and even the T1 guys in here. A vendor that we looked at, Ubiquiti, works that way. They use TDMA. My understanding is Alvarion may have some TDMA-based or token-based equipment now coming out, or that they've had out for a while. But basically it works just like on the cell network. The access unit on the tower tells the subscribers when they can talk. And if they're not told they can talk, they just sit there waiting for the little token to come around. Also, the access units on the towers transmit regardless of what they hear. So even if you're in a super noisy environment, I don't care. This is my network here, So that little wireless router down at Donna's Pizza coffee shop, I don't really care that that's transmitting to those laptops down there, and it really doesn't care that I'm up on the tower, even though we can hear each other a little bit. So we get much better throughput because of that. Also, clients transmit, regardless of what they hear. So maybe my subscriber has a wireless access point in their house, and it's transmitting, but the laptop's close enough that the wireless access point and the laptop can hear each other. So I don't really care, again, that the access point's generating some noise. I still want to transmit back to the tower. The Ubiquiti TDMA gear also has priorities. So for our business class customers, we can kind of bump them up a notch. So they get bigger chunks of the spectrum and time allotment than the residential customers. Or if we have a customer who likes to call in all the time because they feel like their connection's slow, or whatever the case might be, we can bump them up a little higher on priority so they get a better experience. Not that we don't want all our customers to have a good experience. But, so our equipment cost, we looked at that. Again, we're a very rural carrier, very rural area. So we needed a very low return on investment. Some of the equipment we looked at, like the Alvarion WiMAX gear and some of the other gear, was up to $14,000 per tower to put a tri-sector system up there, which for a cell base station isn't a whole lot, but you've got all kinds of other factors going in there. You've got your roaming revenue and your subscriber base and a lot more things that are on your ROI sheet there. So for broadband, you don't have that roaming. You've got those subscribers that are right in that town. So $14,000 per tower just wasn't going to work. Ubiquiti, we can do a tri-sector arrangement for about $1,000. And that's 3 sectors up on the tower, power supply, and a router down in the shack. So Proxim, Alvarion, WaveRider, and Ubiquiti were the 3 companies that we looked at. And as we evaluated all the different things, Ubiquiti Networks is the company that we decided to go with, and we've been very happy with. We have 4 tower sites up right now with a bunch of subscribers on them. And really, we basically have not heard a peep out of the customers. I carry a tech support phone around with me in case anybody ever calls, and I think I've gotten maybe 2 calls in a year. And literally, it was because the customer had an issue because they had just signed up for service and needed just some help configuring their computer. Other than that, we have not really heard anything from them. And
that doesn't count the calls for me because I was the guinea pig.
Well, you were the guinea pig. Yeah, there were calls at the beginning, but since we, I guess, marked the network as commercial ready, yeah, Dave called all the time, but that was good. So a little history about Ubiquiti Networks. There's actually a Ubiquiti 5.8 gigahertz access point out front that the Blue WAN guys have. It's on a little post there if anybody wants to see it. But they were formed in 2004. They started out making just kind of like PCI cards for computers and public safety, 700 megahertz, two-way communication, that kind of thing. And then they got into making cost-disruptive broadband equipment. And what I mean by that is, you've got your Alvarion out there who has like a $400 CPE, which doesn't work in the rural environment. Ubiquiti's got an $80 CPE. So I can justify that. A month or 2 I've paid for the CPE. They also have basically a lifetime warranty on their equipment. So we just had a tower that literally took almost a direct lightning strike. We lost 2 access points on the tower. We swapped them out, went back under RMA, and they're on their way back to us. So Ubiquiti literally has a no questions asked RMA policy. They also listen to consumers for bug fixes, which I thought was very important. A lot of companies, like Motorola, it's very difficult to talk to anybody at the company, to make any suggestions or to say, hey, we have a bug. Ubiquiti is very open. I've actually talked to some of their head technical folks and product folks, and they listen. And they have a public forum where people can go and post questions, post comments, and their staff monitors that, and they reply and release firmware updates based on what people request and want. They also have 900 megahertz, 2.4, and 3.65, as well as 5.8, so all the frequencies we'd want to use. And then they have TDMA. They've got the priorities like we talked about. They also do a lot of high-end wireless, what's the term I'm looking for? Features, like frequency hopping. So if you are in a polluted area spectrum-wise, you can have it hop through several frequencies. So even if something starts getting overloaded on a certain frequency, your subscribers can still get data through. Also GPS sync. They now have access points that they've come out with where you can have 3, 4 access points on a tower and GPS sync them so that they're all transmitting at the same time and listening at the same time. So you avoid interfering with yourself there. And then they've got kind of enterprise class software, Air Control and AirView, for monitoring your network. And also, it's basically a spectrum analyzer. AirView is built right into the radios. So when you mount it up on the tower, you can do a spectrum analysis right from that sector and go, OK, this is unlicensed spectrum, but here's where I'm going to try to operate because it's clear based on what I'm seeing. Again, lifetime warranties and lifetime software upgrades. So it's not like you buy a license for a year and then you have to buy a license again. It's lifetime for that, and there's no expansion keys or upgrade keys. What you buy is what you get. So real quick here, this is a look at the air control software. You can see part of the network there, and it goes quite a ways down. But you can basically see what's online, what's offline, do upgrades, do changes to the whole network from there, as well as see historical information. So if a customer calls in and says, hey, I didn't have internet after that storm last night, or it's very slow, what happened? I can see, well, the signal dropped way down.